Two, I've left that only 3 microphones work, so there's all. Just make sure you take it. Or give everything a
Right, everybody, it's now 6:45, so if we could start the meeting proper. So we have the following business is proposed to be transacted. Item 1 is to elect the town mayor for the ensuing civic year. Councillor Sheldon.
Yes, I rise. I'm trying to answer the conflict of interest that will come ahead with the consort, the mayor's consort. This is nothing personal, Jan, but looking at the papers and looking at the position, Janet Smallacombe is part of the management structure of this of the officers in this council, where not only do we expect professional conduct, but we also expect, as councillors, professional distance. I'm also concerned about employment rights and welfare provision. When we employ someone, we are the officers' employers. And when we employ someone, we have to be concerned about their welfare and time off, etc., not to give them other duties. Now, I don't know with EU regulation, working time directives, etc., whether an extension of council work, of what a consult is, will be in contravention of those regulations. And I would need the view of the town clerk to answer that. An officer's job is to implement policies on a day-to-day basis, our policies, management and the day-to-day management, and also sometimes advise councillors. And this is where the conflict of interest comes in. It is a conflict of interest where the job of a consort is to support the work of the mayor throughout the year, all the time, not just subtract 9 to 5 when they're at work for the council. I'm interested to hear other councillors' views on this, but I think we need to look at it before we get any problems of somebody claiming for employment rights, some other problem if there's an illness or an injury. And normally, I don't know of any councils where the consorts are employees of the council, except sometimes they could be a wife, but they're not actually within the manufacture. They're not within the management structure. And I would be interested to hear if I formulate a proposal, but obviously I'd like to hear what other councillors' views are on this, or am I completely out of order? Thank you.
Mr. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Sheldon is right in that it's relatively unusual for a member of staff to take the role of consort. However, because it is relatively unusual, there has been a consultation exercise which has taken place with some previous mayors of this council. I've also taken advice from outside bodies, including South West employers, to fully understand some of the issues and the implications which you've brought up. I think what the feedback that we've had is, as long as it's clearly understood, which it is clearly understood between the mayor-elect and his prospective consort, that this is voluntary, that there is a clear separation of the role and responsibilities of what takes place in the workplace environment between those which take place as the consort, which will be in the member of staff's own time and therefore separate from work and separate from the workplace responsibilities and duties, that is something which is very much a matter for those two individuals, the mayor-elect in choosing and the individual in terms of accepting. And as I say, I have taken HR advice on this, and there isn't an issue as long as there is clarity around that, and there will be some guidelines which sit alongside of it.
Yes, thank you, Town Clerk. As the Town Clerk, you're the Chief Officer of this council. Do you hold a view that you haven't consulted someone else on? What is your view as the Chief Officer of this council?
It's very much the view that I expressed when we had the past mayor's meeting, which is that what a member of staff does in their own time is a matter for them, and it's not a matter which should be directed by the council in any way.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything? Councillor Moody. Welcome as the new town mayor, the new West Devon Borough Mayor. Congratulations.
I listened to Councillor Sheldon with great interest. As I say, it's not a personal issue. It's really about a public perception issue, is the way I view the suggested appointment. And it's just how the members of the public could view a council employee being a consort. Whilst it may not contravene regulations, whatever, that's my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moody. Councillor Mrs Johnson.
Thank you. I'm going to say that a consort is a volunteer. It's not a paid member of staff's job. The person, Jan, who's proposing to do it, is doing it as a volunteer. The Mayor may choose whoever they wish to be their consort. There have been occasions, many occasions, and I've sat here for long enough now, when I've not even known who was going to be the consort until they put either the chain on or the badge that they may wear. If you go back in time to when Bill Martin was town clerk here, and the early days when people like Norma Woodcock were mayor, Bill Martin was frequently the consort. He attended many events with many of the mayors and assisted them in doing so. So I don't see there's any problem here at all, and I think we should just move on.
Okay, is everybody happy for me to just move on?
Yes, I'm happy. It needed an airing. We need to know where we stood, and we know where we stand, and, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, so it falls to me to nominate Councillor Sanders for his role. I will stand to do this for him. Yep. Right, my nomination for Councillor Philip Sanders for the Mayor of Tavistock. Philip is a Devon boy, having grown up on his parents' farm. He left home to do a science-based degree at Nottingham University, following which he entered the hotel and catering industry and progressed through the management training process to running hotels. A career change saw him enter the National Health Service, first training as a work-study officer and as a practitioner in organisation and method study. To you and I, he became a time and motion man. After a period of putting in bonus schemes, carrying out numerous projects to increase productivity and efficiency, he moved across into general management in the NHS. He worked on the national pilot introducing computers into the NHS and worked closely with several international consultancies preparing for and introducing the major NHS reforms in 1974. After moving back to Devon, where did you go? Oh, you don't know? Right. After moving back to Devon, I never knew you'd moved out of Devon, really, apart from uni.
King's College Hospital.
Oh, right.
So SE5, if you really want to know.
Okay, Kensington. Within the NHS...
No, Denmark Hill SE5, actually.
Right, okay. Within the NHS, he took on the role of commissioning officer for Phase 1 at the New Derriford Hospital in Plymouth, which involved working with the main contractor and design team to bring the building to completion, and then equipping and staffing it before opening it to patients on the 9th of June 1981. After a period running the new hospital, he moved to join the board of a community trust, also in Plymouth. In 1997, he left the NHS and set up his own consultancy, largely operating in the healthcare sector. This saw him project manage a range of new buildings in the southwest and Thames Valley, as well as providing interim management to a number of clients. Philip currently sits on the board of Tamar Housing, a registered provider, chairing their development committee, having previously served as their chairman from 1998 to 2004. He also sits on the board of several local charities. Philip was elected as a town councillor for Tavistock in 2007, a Buckland Monacorum Borough Councillor in 2007, and is currently the leader of West Devon Borough Council. He has recently been re-elected as the Devon County Councillor for Yelverton Rural, having been the member since 2009, and also sits as a member of Dartmoor National Park Authority. He's also been, and still is, a local authority governor of Tavistock College, which he has been for many years now. As you can tell from all of this I've just read, Philip has his fingers in many, many pies. I now leave my seconder to do the other aspect of Philip's life.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It gives me great pleasure to second the nomination of Philip Sanders as Town Mayor for Tavistock for the year 2017-18. I've known Philip for 40 years now. It doesn't seem that long. Perhaps sometimes it seems longer. We trained together as youth workers in the 1970s and then went on to run the youth club at Whitchurch for a number of years. Philip was very popular with the members. I wasn't quite so popular, I was the disciplinarian. Always a willing volunteer, Philip has been active in this community since his arrival in the town. A team member, controller and chairman of the Dartmoor Rescue Group, an organisation which is about to celebrate its 50th anniversary this year. Philip has also been an active volunteer with the Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme as an assessor. He's a National Park Voluntary Warden with the Dartmoor National Park, Chairman of the Dartmoor Trust, Member of Devon Countryside Access Forum, Vice President of Tavistock Rugby Club, so he's a very active volunteer. He's also husband to Dr. Hilary Sanders, who's sitting at the back, dad to Neil and Alan, and I think he's got 4 grandchildren, so he's a pretty busy person. A lot of this information I found out when I did a web search. Some of the things about Philip, which I guess he's written himself, were quite surprising. I knew he was interested in walking and cycling, but I don't know when he last did any running, climbing or caving.
Look at Hilary.
It says it. I only looked at 3 websites and that's what it said. So if you want something done, ask a busy person. This will be Philip's 2nd time as Mayor of Tavistock, and it gives me great pleasure to second his nomination.
Can I ask, are there any other nominations for the position of Mayor of Tavistock? No? May I see a show of hands, therefore, for Philip to become the Mayor of Tavistock? Thank you very much indeed, members. Here we go then, Philip. Put your jacket on.
When do I get the big red book?
It's coming. I don't know, I think Anne and I have written it.
Thought that was the issue of life.
Running. She's not quite got over that one.
What? I used to think I'd probably running actually, but not recently.
We wondered how many potholes you've been down recently.
I haven't been doing any recently. Can you do it? No, he's not out. Thank you.
No kiss? No.
What? You want a kiss?
No? Okay.
Just looking back to me, a little handshake would be fine.
Oh, I was getting a hug. That was this.
Yeah, you were going to get one for a change. That's all right. That's lovely. And again, that's lovely. Perfect. Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. Move over. I, Philip Sanders, having been elected to the office of Town Mayor of the Council of Tavistock Town, hereby declare that I take the said office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties thereof according to the best of my judgment and ability. Dated this 23rd day of May 2017. And this declaration was made and described before me, and it's the proper officer of the Tavistock Town Council. So I will duly sign. Or something like it. There we go. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I'm a bit confused as to where we are at the moment. Which item list? Yeah. Right, so Mrs Leslie Dingle will now invest the new Mayor's consort with a badge and chain of office.
There you go. I've got a little box as well from you. Oh, good luck. Thank you.
Item 10 is the newly elected town mayor to thank the council. I think what I probably should do is start by addressing the point that was raised by Councillor Sheldon. It probably would have been helpful if that had been raised at the pre-meeting last week, but however, it's been raised this evening.
Point of order, I wasn't here. I know the report on that.
And I think it needs to be addressed. First of all, my wife Hilary is here this evening in the audience. The reason that she's not willing to become deputy mayor is largely... Mayoress. I'll get it right in a minute, sorry. Is that she's not willing to become mayoress. It's not that there's... You know, we're not on the point of divorce or anything like that, but she had a kidney transplant a few months ago. She is still under very close medical supervision, having regular attendances weekly at hospital, and is on very heavy doses of immunosuppressants. So she's taken a bit of a risk coming here this evening with other people. She has to be very, very careful not to go into large crowds or go to things like dinners, dances, those sort of things, anywhere where she's likely to pick up any infection. The first 12 months are absolutely critical. She has to be very careful what she eats and incredibly careful what she does. Confronted with that issue, I felt it appropriate to try and ask for Jan's assistance for a number of reasons. One, I've known Jan for quite a number of years. I get on very well with her. She's very polite and she's very helpful in company. She's also worked very, very hard for this council and gets very little in the way of reward and seeing what goes on. She arranges a lot of events without actually having the opportunity to go and see what actually happens at those events. So I felt that was appropriate. I would have to say that Jan has recognised quite clearly that during working hours she will not be able to deal with all of these things, and also she has very sensibly and properly said that, you know, she has a husband and she isn't going to be able to be available every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, which is quite common with the mayor, because she needs to spend time with her husband. And because of that, sitting next to my wife at the back is Mrs Lindsay Winterton, which she might like to stand up if anybody wants to see. Lindsay is a very long-standing friend of myself and my wife, and was a colleague of mine at work for many, many years, and she has also graciously accepted my invitation to help out with the consort duties, so that there will be a range of consorts. It's not unusual, as Councillor Johnson made a remark earlier. So that is the story behind that. I have been aware that there were some concerns being raised. I don't believe there will be any sort of conflict of interest. As Councillor Mrs Johnson said, that work will be done in Mrs Smallacombe's own time on a purely voluntary basis. So I hope that puts people's minds at rest. I would hope that you would support all of the consorts, because it's not inconceivable that on certain occasions my wife might decide to accompany me if it's somewhere where she's less likely to catch an infection of some sort.
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations, Mr Mayor. And obviously I was not aware of all the chats and people of inquiries going on. I wasn't at the pre-meeting. So I congratulate you on just not reaching the Mayor again, but also for being open and transparent to all the councillors. We know Mrs Smallacombe and the other lady, I didn't quite catch her name, but...
This is Lindsay Winterton.
Yes, that lady as well. So I'd like to congratulate you all and have a successful year. Thank you.
Thank you for that. What I would like to do now is just thank the council formally for the proposal and for accepting me. I was expecting to see a big red book come out just now at the end of that dialogue from the past mayor and councillor Mrs Johnson. As someone has remarked, it's quite a long time ago I was down a pothole, and I think if I went down Baker's Pit at the moment, I'd probably get jammed at least once in one of the things, and I'm not overly... Sorry?
I have a key to Baker's Pit.
I think I might get jammed at the present time. It's not somewhere I fancy going. And it's a few years ago that I gave up running because I had a hip replacement in 1988. So it was not really a good thing to run after that, so stuck to cycling instead. Anyway, thank you all very much. I hope it's going to be a good year, and in fact I'm sure it is going to be a good year. So if we move on then please to the next item, which is 11, which is a tribute to the retiring town mayor, which is going to be given by the recent arrival, Councillor Colin Rogers.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, councillors, officers, ladies and gentlemen, having nominated Councillor Ewings a year ago, it is my great privilege to give a vote of thanks to Councillor Mandy Ewings, who has served as the Mayor of Tavistock for the past year. The position of Mayor is held in two parts: as leader of the Town Council and representative of the Council in ceremonial duties. Councillor Ewings has carried out her duties exemplary in her role as leader, giving forthright direction and brought humour to the proceedings, brought on by not being up to speed or skipping the agenda. The profile of the role of Mayor has been considerably risen in the past year. Councillor Ewings. Having come to Tavistock 10 years ago, Councillor Ewings was one of the first people I encountered, and I can say that in that time she has been honest, caring for the people of Tavistock and most passionate towards the town. Her work and dedication to young people of Tavistock is immense and most commendable. She has raised the profile of Mayor in the past year, carrying out her duties of opening the school fete, reviewing the work carried out under the Townscape Heritage Initiative. The Mayor is in the papers every week. But in July last year, the Mayor was seen on national television and in the national newspapers and on the internet around the world for her crowning glory of welcoming the Man Engine to Tavistock. A great day in all for Tavistock and personally for the Mayor. You did not have to ask the Mayor if she enjoyed her time, her face said it all. I know you will join me in showing a warm thanks and gratitude to Councillor Mandy Ewings for serving as the Mayor of Tavistock, and a job well done indeed. Thank you, Mandy.
Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to present a past Mayor's badge to Councillor Mandy Ewings, and in doing so I would echo everything that Councillor Rogers has had to say. I did say, some of you would have heard me say this, that the Mayor's end it's on for a reason actually, Wayne's insistence that we don't have a problem. I did say quite a bit at the Mayor's end of term party the other night, so I won't repeat all of that, but Mandy started the year with some quite major problems with her health in general. She has suffered quite a lot during the course of the year, but in general that's not stopped her from carrying out the duties that she needed to carry out as the Mayor of this town. And she has, without doubt, I think, been a credit to this council and worked really hard for the town. So on behalf of the councillors present, Councillor Ewings, it is my pleasure to present you with the past Mayor's badge. I am not going to attempt to pin it on because my hand is not steady enough to do that.
Me again, and then I'll shut up. Thank you, Councillor Rogers, for your really kind words in recognition of my mayoral year. Thank you, they were very kind. I would firstly like to thank the Council for nominating me to be the Mayor of our wonderful town of Tavistock. It has been a humbling and privileged year, meeting so many different groups and organisations within Tavistock. I have almost managed to attend every event I have been invited to, which is just over 140, plus all my council duties. And they would have been 100%, but I was at mayoral dues, so I couldn't attend them all. I have devoted the last almost 2 years to representing our town to the best of my ability, helping out the late Sue Bailey during her mayoral year. Some events have been tinged with sadness when I know that Sue would have been there the year before, probably sat in the same place. The Christmas St Luke's Hospice service and the Civic service were both quite emotional for that reason. It was really quite surreal sitting in a seat that we knew Sue had only been sat in a year before. I found that very, very emotional. Secondly, to Leslie as my mayoress, for all of her hard work and attending events with me, always making conversation with the people we've met and helping them to feel at ease, ensuring I get to places and I'm suitably attired with the mayor's chain of office. The whole of the Dingle family, support for us both has been wonderful, and the whole of the support for the Dingle family, for me in general, they are just always there, and they have been for 25 years this year, and it's very, very special family. A big thank you to Paul, who has sometimes been dragged along to events when he has only had a few hours sleep, particularly to churches, not in Tavistock. Bless him, he's done most of the church events of the mayor all year. I need to thank him also for the disco he did at no cost at the Civic Ball, but also for the loss of wages and taking time off from his business to set up the disco. I have to say, I am always volunteering him for various groups around the town, and I don't always really say thank you. But I do mean it, Paul. You do some of the Lions for the last few years. You've just done freely and things like that. You do quite a lot for the community, although you actually don't think you do, but I know you do. The highlight of my year, as everybody knows, was my man engine. And I have to say, I have heard from Will Coleman today as well. On Monday, the 25th of July 2016. The craftsmanship in creating the man was incredible. The voice of Will Coleman bringing him to life and the evocative smells of the machinery have created a lasting lifetime memory. But also the Passion Play on Good Friday was another event that truly showed off Tavistock at its best. The visitors to Tavistock that day surpassed all expectations of all of those involved. I now have a scrapbook full of memories, from invites, menus, press cuttings, etc., to now be able to look back on with happy thoughts. Thank you all.
Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to the next item on the agenda, I call upon Councillor Tim Gibbons, who is going to make a proposal in relation to the Deputy Town Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I propose Paul Ward. I've not known him for that long, a couple of years, but already I've seen that he's well liked and well respected in both the council and in the community in general. He's a retired paediatrician, I know that, and he's at present teaching me Italian, well trained. His affable nature belies a very keen mind, and he has formidable organisational skills. I know that too. Put it briefly, I think he'll be an excellent deputy mayor, a safe pair of hands, and he will bring a breath of fresh air to this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibbons. Could I ask you to turn off your microphone, please?
Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, I've got 2 on already and 3 will go. I now call upon Councillor Jeff Moody, who I believe is going to second the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I offer my congratulations to you becoming mayor tonight? Yes,
Even though you didn't
I'm
know
sorry,
that.
you've taken all my speech. I guess, I equally have known Paul for short periods of time, but the professionalism that he approaches everything he does, the way he's been the chair of the planning committee, the way he presents himself at council, I think that Paul will make a great addition to the deputy mayoral position, and then consequently on to the mayor, hopefully. And I would just, and I think I said to put this to Paul at one occasion, I said to him, I just like the cut of his jib. I think he's a nice man, as Councillor has mentioned, he's well organised and presents himself well at council, and I think he would make a wonderful deputy mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moody. Councillors, are there any other nominations for the position of Deputy Town Mayor? Councillor Moody, could I ask you to turn off your microphone, please? Thank you. If there are no other nominations, then I duly declare Councillor Paul Ward as the Deputy Town Mayor for the coming year. Congratulations. Councillor Ward, if I could ask you to join me on the dais, please. Luckily, you're not 6'4", otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this next bit. But on behalf of the Council, it gives me great pleasure to, let's hope I can do this, to present to you the medallion of the Deputy Mayor of the town of Tavistock. I'm sure you'll take pleasure and pride in wearing it to all of the events that we managed to get to, either together or separately.
Indeed.
I congratulate you, and I would add to what has been said by the proposers, and the second is Paul Ward, as a paediatrician at Derriford, was very, very highly respected by all of his colleagues. And having spent 40 years working in the NHS, I know that it's rare indeed for a consultant to have the respect of all of his colleagues, because they fight like cat and dogs actually on the quiet. But actually, Paul was one of the rare ones who everybody liked, and regardless of what their disciplines were. And he was always very, very, very well received by the parents, working in an area where things are, by their very nature, things are emotionally charged and extremely difficult, and he managed to discharge that throughout his career with a great deal of dignity, and was a great comfort to many, many parents in times of difficulty. So I'm certain that he's going to make an excellent deputy. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Just ask you if you'd like to read that and then sign, of course.
I, Paul Ward, having been elected to the office of Deputy Town Mayor of the Council of the Tavistock Town, hereby declare that I take the said office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties thereof according to the best of my judgment and ability. Dated this 23rd day of May 2017. This declaration was made and subscribed before the proper officer, the Town Clerk.
Congratulations, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Ward, Deputy Mayor, I now call upon you to give a response. You may sit or stand as you please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to all members of Council for supporting me and for electing me to this post. I have not been a councillor for that long, but I have hugely enjoyed my time so far, and I'm looking forward and feel eager to learn more and to be able to fulfil my duties properly. I'd like to thank Councillor Ewing for her leadership in the last 12 months and the example that she has set, and I hope that I will be able to match up to similar expectations. I very much look forward to working with our new Mayor, the officers and staff of Council, members and the public, to the benefit of this wonderful town. And I'm really looking forward to the next 12 months. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you for that, councillors. We now move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. Town Clerk, do we have any, please?
We do, Mr Mayor. We have apologies from councillors Mrs Roberts, Mrs Whitcomb and E Sanders.
Thank you for that. Moving on to item 4, which is declarations of interest. I'd be surprised if any member did have a declaration of interest to make in tonight's meeting, but if you do, now is the appropriate time to make it, or if you become aware of an interest at a subsequent point, please make sure that you catch my attention and declare it accordingly. Thank you. If there are no declarations, then I will move on to item 5, which is confirmation of the minutes of the special meeting of Tavistock Town Council, which was held on the 22nd of May. It says on your agenda to follow. I believe they were distributed earlier this evening. Hopefully all members have had the opportunity to read them. Are there any errors or omissions on page 1, page 2, or page 3? No? Thank you. You may certainly move the minutes. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Ewings. Can I see those in favour of acceptance of those minutes then, please? Thank you. That's just about unanimous when everybody's put their hands up and down. I will sign those accordingly. Sorry, I'll do that in a moment. Yeah, I'll hold the proceedings up, please. Item 6 is other matters to be considered at the annual meeting, which is 6A, order of business, to consider the suspension of standing orders number 5J, little Roman numerals 4, 6, 8, 10 and 13 and 18 to enable the following business to be transacted. I will move that from the chair. Is there a seconder? Thank you for that. So if we move on then to item 7, which is the Mayor's expenses. At this point, I will vacate the chair and remove myself to the wilds and allow the Deputy Mayor to take over.
I find myself sitting in this chair a bit sooner than I'd expected. Item 7. To consider the payment of an allowance of £2,000 to the Town Mayor to defray the expenses attached to the office in pursuance of Section 15, brackets 5 of the Local Government Act 1972. Does anybody wish to say anything on this matter? Do I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Moody, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Venning. All in favour? Thank you. That seems to be unanimous. Can we invite Mr. Mayor back into the room, please?
Thank you for item 7. I don't know what the decision was, and I don't need to know what the decision was. What I do know is the last time I was mayor, it cost me considerably more than the mayor's allowances. Very considerably more than the mayor's allowances. If we move on then, please, to appointment, or item 8, appointment of committees and consultative groups, which is as Annex A as attached. There was, following the pre-meeting last week, there were names put against most of these. There was a vacancy shown by the Budget and Policy Committee because Councillor Mrs Johnson had indicated a wish to stand down. It is my understanding that Councillor Johnson, if it were to be the wish of this meeting, would be happy to resume that place on that particular committee. Councillor Mrs Ewings, please.
I'd like to propose that Mrs Johnson goes back onto the Budget and Policy Committee.
Is there a seconder for that? Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to raise any issue on that? Could I just see a show of hands then, please, to support that? Thank you. That's unanimous. The other committees are as was agreed at the pre-meeting, unless there is anything that anyone wishes to raise, question or query on the committees and consultative groups, which is Budget and Policy, Goose Fair, Member Lead for Councillor Development, Standing Orders, Town Hall and Penny Market and Whitchurch Down Consultative Group. And then the Plans Committee and the Neighbourhood Planning Group, 4 members, membership to be confirmed. Town Clerk, do you want to comment on that?
This is currently a holding over item, Mr Mayor, until such time as the Council has decided the way forward, and to that end it will be meeting with representatives of the prospective neighbourhood planning group for the town in the course of the next month, we anticipate.
Thank you. Members, are you all happy with Appendix A, the schedule of groups and committees? The proposal? Are you all agreed? Thank you. So if we then... I spent all morning doing this at County up the road. If we move on then, please, to the calendar of meetings, your attention is particularly drawn to the fact that the original draft that came out had a different date for the June Council meeting than that which is now shown. which is now scheduled for Wednesday the 21st of June. Otherwise, the calendar is, to the best of my knowledge, the same as the draft which came out originally. Are you all happy with the calendar of meetings? You will note that what's been done this year is the Budget and Policy Committee meeting has now been inserted on a cycle to coincide with the Town Council meetings taking place 2 weeks prior to the date of each council meeting. Councillor Gibbons, please.
Could I ask why that has been moved from the 20th to the 21st? Is there a reason for that?
I think there were difficulties with attendances, as I recall.
Okay.
Does it create a problem for you?
No, not very.
Thank you. Members, are you happy with the programme of meetings? Yeah, all happy? Okay, thank you. Sorry? We've now got item 10, which is the appointment of representatives to charities and other bodies. I've got to try and find that in the middle of all this lot somewhere. Is it? Oh, right. Yep. As it says at the top, anything in italics introduces new appointments which were proposed at the informal council meeting. I don't intend to read them all out, members. When we get to the second page, we do have some additions to put in, but is there anything on the first page between A and M that any member wishes to question or ask about? Councillor Smith, please.
Mr Mayor, do we need to deal with the matter of Jessie Ann Alford tonight, or is that at a later date? There was some question about that at the pre-meeting.
There was indeed. I will ask the clerk in a moment to give us information on that. It looks rather odd because the Jessie Ann Alford charity has 3 trustees nominated by us tonight, all of whom are past councillors, none of whom are current councillors, and I will ask the clerk to explain why that situation exists. Get there in a minute.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The obligation is to appoint 3 representatives to the Trust who may or may not be councillors. The appointment is for a 4-year term, and therefore these were last formally appointed at the annual meeting after the election. I know we do it on an annual basis. What we would suggest that we do going forwards is that we seek to stagger the appointments from the next election in such a way that we're appointing each one of 3 years, and that then caters for the possibility of change going forwards if members are agreeable. So,
sorry, Town Clerk, I'm not, when you're talking about election, what election are you referring to?
After the next election to this council, which would be in 2019.
Right. There was a question raised, and maybe it's not appropriate to deal with this in open council, but there was a question raised about whether one of the individuals was in sufficiently robust health to be able to continue to act as a trustee. Are we clear that the person we're nominating is able, all 3 of the people are able to discharge their duties?
We received responses from the person that you're referring to when communicated with in connection with this, and that is consistent with those that we received from others there. So we don't have any reason to believe that they are not still in a position to actively contribute.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, would you like to come back on anything, or is that...
No, that's a satisfactory answer, I believe.
Thank you. So if you're happy on page 1, members, A to M, if we turn over the page... I did actually say that I was willing to continue doing the National Park Forum simply because I'm there anyway. But I'm happy to do that, but I don't feel precious about it. If there is another member of this council that feels they would like to sit as the National Park Forum representative, then we can happily take that recommendation tonight. The only reason I said I would do it was it didn't involve somebody else travelling to park at Bubby Tracy for the meeting. It happens generally now once a year. It used to be twice a year. But does anyone else feel that they would like to do that? I wouldn't be in the least bit upset if someone does. No. And the other vacancy was for the Chamber of Commerce. It is absolutely essential that we have someone who understands the situation in the Chamber of Commerce. It is also essential that we have someone who we can rely upon to turn up. We've had difficulties in the past with people not turning up, and we get criticised by the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce, I think, is in a state of flux at the moment, if my information is correct. And we being myself and the previous mayor, have approached Councillor Paul Williamson to ascertain whether he would be willing to stand for that, and he has indicated that he is willing to stand. However, if any other member wishes to put their name forward, this is the appropriate time to do so. Are you all happy that Councillor Williamson fulfills that role? Thank you. I think he's a very brave man, and I'm very grateful to him for taking it on. But it is actually very important to us as councillors that we establish and maintain good working relationships with both the Chamber and with BID. And I think Councillor Williamson is actually quite well positioned in the town and is well known in the town and is also well connected in the town. So I'm very grateful to him for taking that on. And is there anything else that anyone wishes to raise on N to Y? If not, can I take it that you're happy with those members who all agreed? Vague noddings of heads and some agreement. Yes, oh, Councillor Rogers, thank you. That's the one I was waiting for. Right, so if we move on then, please, to the next item, which is item 11, the general power of competence. I'm going to ask the town clerk to explain, mainly for the benefit of the people in the audience who aren't aware of what this is, and possibly some of our own councillors, what it means and, more importantly, why it's important.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The general position with councils is that they may only do what they are permitted by law to do. That means if they want to buy paper clips, there's got to be a statute which says you can either buy paper clips or something which is incidental to that. What the general power of competence does is it gives a broader power which effectively puts the council in a position much closer to you as an individual. So whereas the position of a council traditionally is that it may only do what it is permitted to do by law, and the position of an individual is that they can do anything which is not prohibited by law, it moves the council much closer to that position. That in that way we are able to deliver things such as the Townscape Heritage Initiative scheme, which otherwise we wouldn't have statutory authority for. So it gives us, particularly in a time of devolution and localism, an opportunity to make a greater contribution to the community benefit and the good of the town than we would otherwise be able to do.
Thank you. Does that make sense? Okay. It's actually quite important because that does mean that we can literally, as long as it's not unlawful, we can do what we want to do. So if we wanted to run a petrol station or buy a flower shop and run that, we could do. So, members, is there someone willing to move a recommendation that we re-adopt the general power of competence? Thank you, Councillor Moody, and there's a seconder for that. Thank you. Did you wish to speak, Councillor Sheldon?
Yeah, I was just saying how important it is, and the fact is that you do need elected councillors by election rather than co-opted councillors. So if we did have someone stood down from the council, we're probably in the position where we would need to have an election. So it shouldn't come as a surprise, because we do need that general power of competence, because the power of well-being is probably not worth having in this day and age. Thank you.
No, we were perilously close to losing it when we had the last election, and we only had 11 of the 17 places, as I recall, actually filled, so we had to have a load of co-options, and we were, I think, within half a person's worth of actually losing our general power of competence at that point. So it is actually something that's worth bearing in mind. There is a reluctance to call an election if there's a simple vacancy, because it is actually quite expensive, but there are good and solid reasons why we should be doing that if we possibly can. Otherwise we would, we run that risk. Okay, so if we move on to item 12, record of attendances, there are one sheet which is on both sides. I would draw your attention to the difference. It is quite critical, certainly from my own personal point of view. One of the sheets records all attendances, including attendance at plans meetings. My overall attendance comes out at 45.45%, but the one which does not include the overleaf, the plans meeting, my overall attendance creeps up to 87.5%. The reason for the difference in the figures is both the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor are ex officio on all committees. By virtue of the fact that I chair planning and licensing or development management, as it is from 11 o'clock this morning at West Devon Borough Council, even if I attended the plans committee, I wouldn't be able to speak because I would be in danger of being accused of predetermination, which is about the worst crime you can commit on the Development Management Committee, and would mean I couldn't deal with issues when the application came before the Borough Council. So obviously it does make a difference to both the Mayor's attendance percentages and mine. Otherwise I think they're all the same, and unless anyone has any comments, they're here for noting. Happy to note. And we have a pretty coloured one, which is councillor attendance at civic events, which is a new one, I think. I don't remember seeing that before. Have we? I was asleep last year, then obviously. So again, that's here for noting, unless anyone has any comments they wish to make. No. It might be appropriate to mention just at this point that a number of us noticed that Councillor E. Sanders has not been present much recently. I've only just learned this evening that apparently he's had an accident of some sort, hence he's not able to attend. I don't know the details, but had a fall, did it? So apparently that's why we haven't seen anything of him recently. I think we were all wondering what had happened, but he has actually had a fall. If we move on then please to item 13, which is the fixation of the seal. I think Councillor Mrs Ewings has moved the seal, and I think Councillor Harry Smith has seconded the movement of the seal, because if not, there is going to be a riot over the red wine in a moment. So I think that's the way it's going to be. That concludes the formal business of the meeting, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. As a result of a lot of hard work by the staff, and in particular by the assistant to the town clerk, Mrs Smallacombe, there are refreshments for your consumption at the back of the room. Thank you all very much. I look forward to seeing you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
It's slightly controversial, but deserves an opportunity to get involved in some of these things. I get on well with it.